Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners, Chief Choi, Mr. T-Fank, Madam Secretary, Mr. Inspector General, Mark Smith, Mr. City Attorney, Carlos De La Guerra, members of the public. Today is Tuesday, August 15th, 2023. It's 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Briggs, Southers, Calanche, Shields, and Soboroff are present, and we have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We welcome everyone attending this morning. All public comment will be heard during item number 3 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. The order of the speakers will be a speaker in this room will go first. Then we will take a speaker watching today's meeting on Zoom. We will alternate between speakers in this room and Zoom for a total of 45 minutes. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so feel free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinions shall be deemed off topic and your public comment period will be concluded. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in today's meeting, you can participate in a number of ways that are outlined on the agenda. For those of you in the room, please submit a speaker card to one of the officers who will then give the card to the board secretary, indicating you wish to speak. For those of you on Zoom, please raise your virtual hand and you will be chosen in the order in which you've raised your hand. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph Brown Act affords public the opportunity to be present at these meetings, hear the presentations, and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via public comment period. During these meetings, there is a need for the board to carry out the public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes any actual disruption of the meeting. Those persons attending today are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease such disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such disruptive behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. While in the boardroom, members of the audience must be seated. Standing is not permitted. In the past, standing may have been permitted for a few, but moving forward, this courtesy will not be afforded to attendees except for credentialed members of the media. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. Thank you. At this time, we're going to go to item number 1 on the agenda, the President's remarks. This morning, I want to take some time to reflect upon these past 2 years. Today is my last day as president of the commission. Later this morning, the commission will nominate my successor. I've served with a wonderful group of colleagues who bring much to the table and contribute many hours to the oversight of this department. It has been an honor and pleasure to serve for the past 2 years with Commissioners Soboroff and Calanche, and it has been a joy to welcome 2 new colleagues who bring needed energy, enthusiasm, and much needed insight to this commission, Commissioners Southers and Shield. It has been my privilege to lead this commission for 2 terms as president. Together with former Mayor Garcetti, Chief Moore, the command staff, Mr. T-Fank, the city attorney, the inspector general, we've accomplished a lot. Among other things, we have brought the ABLE program to the LAPD, one that I'm extremely proud of. We have revised the protectional stop policy. We've also instituted much needed reforms arising from the civil unrest of 2020. I want to thank Mayor Bass for allowing me to continue my term as president of the commission to ensure that the reforms we instituted have been implemented and become part of the culture of LAPD. I also want to thank and acknowledge the hard work of the men and women of the LAPD, which is unmatched. Simply stated, there is no better law enforcement department in our nation. I am proud to have served along with this group of incredibly dedicated people. Although Chief Moore is not here today, I want to thank him for his leadership. It is a tough job leading 1,000+ people and having to endure a high level of criticism from multiple sources, all of whom second-guess your decisions and then hurl vile personal attacks. What is never addressed, sir, please stop talking because you're disrupting the meeting. I'm going to ask that you leave the meeting, sir. Please escort this gentleman from the meeting. He's disrupting the meeting and I asked him to stop. Please leave the meeting, sir. You're disrupting the meeting. Can you please escort this gentleman from the meeting?
Why wouldn't you deal with scrutiny? You guys kill people, 20+ people, almost every year. Of course you get scrutiny. Talking about this is the best department in the nation.
Please leave the meeting, sir.
High sexual assault in your own place, where you've got criminal activity in your own race. And you're talking about this is the best department in the nation? And I gotta leave because I'm telling the truth. When you're sitting up here telling bullshit, talking all kind of bullshit, this is the problem, is we can't even get y'all to admit that y'all are wrong, let alone fix the shit that y'all do.
And you know he's right.
That's the whole issue, is y'all don't even admit when you're wrong.
As I was saying, what is never addressed is how difficult the job of Chief of Police is or how hard is the work. Because Chief Moore, the LAPD, is a leader in law enforcement and its policies and some of its most progressive in America policing. We've all weathered challenging times in the past few years. When I began my tenure as president, the nation and the department were still reeling from the death of George Floyd and the national civil unrest that followed as Americans demonstrated their outrage at this tragic and senseless killing. It was a time once again to reevaluate both American and local policing. I think that the LAPD is one of the few agencies that truly owns its history. We, as members of this organization, know that we are not perfect. We have come very far, and there's still far to go. But I will say that the LAPD is keenly aware when it is time to make a change. Whether it's the inclusion and acceptance of LGBTQ+ members within our ranks, the celebration of those that have opened doors for others, the increase in proactive and collaborative community policing, the response to in-the-moment public policy situations such as our street racing task force, follow home robbery task force, and increased transit services deployment. Cutting-edge technology, like the deployment of the Axon Fleet 3 in-car camera system, the next generation of integrated in-car and body-worn camera technology, and police accountability. Or our thorough and extensive complaint and use of force review. The LAPD remains the pinnacle of American policing. It has been an honor to serve on this board, and I am humbled that I was chosen to lead this incredible group of people through the challenging times we faced. I also want to thank some of you in the audience who attended every meeting. It does not escape me that you are passionate about your concerns for your fellow citizens and their safety. While I do not agree with all of your methods and some of your notions, I understand that you believe that you're carrying a torch for this current generation, and you too want to see our city succeed and its people live without fear of harm to themselves. At a bare minimum, you certainly made the 45-minute comment period interesting at times. Again, I want to thank all of you for allowing me to serve, and at this time, I will move to item number 2 on the agenda, the report of the Chief of the Police. Chief Choi, please.
Good morning, Commissioner President Briggs and Commissioners, and thank you for your service as the Commission President. I'd also like to say good morning to Inspector General Smith, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Mr. Tiefing. Today, I'm going to be talking about significant events over the past 3 weeks. I'll provide a crime update and also discuss our personnel strength. I'm going to start off with our categorical uses of force. So on July 25th, and this is by date, on July 25th at approximately 11:09 a.m., West Valley Division officers, they responded to a radio call of an assault with a deadly weapon.
I'm requesting an officer's serial number. He will not provide it. It's basic, Steve. He should be able to provide that information. That's one of your regulations within your own department.
Mr. Reedy, please stop disrupting the meeting.
Dominic, tell him to give me his serial number.
Mr. Reedy, please stop disrupting the meeting. I understand.
Okay.
Please stop disrupting the meeting.
You guys are literally overseeing the
Mr. Reedy, I don't want to ask you to leave the meeting. Mr. Reedy, please stop disrupting the meeting. Thank you.
direct me to who I can speak to then. About getting his serial number.
Excuse me, can somebody, Sergeant, handle this, or actually Lieutenant? Can you handle this real quick? Thank you. All right. All right, so I'll just start from the beginning. On July 25th, at approximately 11:09 a.m., West Valley Division uniform officers, they responded to a radio call of an assault with a deadly weapon suspect there now at 7614 Reseda Boulevard. It's a multi-unit shopping center. As the officers arrived in front of the location, they encountered the suspect, later identified as Mavic Areola. He was kneeling on top of a bloodied victim while armed with a utility knife. The officers repeatedly ordered Areola to drop the utility knife, but he refused to comply. One of the officers fired two 40-millimeter less lethal projectiles towards Areola, which were ineffective. Areola then began to stab the victim, which resulted in an officer-involved shooting. He was struck by gunfire and collapsed on top of the victim. Areola was taken into custody. The Los Angeles Fire Department personnel responded to the scene and subsequently pronounced him deceased. The victim, a male approximately 60 years old, was transported to Northridge Hospital by rescue ambulance. He was treated by doctors for multiple lacerations and stab wounds, and he was later released in stable condition. A folding lockback utility knife was recovered at scene and booked as evidence. The tip of the knife blade was missing and was later recovered by medical personnel protruding from the victim's head. LAPD Family Liaison Section made notifications to the next of kin of the deceased, and no other officers or citizens were injured during this incident. Next, on July 26th, we had a law enforcement-related injury at 77th Street area. At approximately 8 o'clock in the morning, 77th Street uniform officers responded to a radio call of an assault with a deadly weapon. Suspect there now, armed with a machete at the Shell gas station located at 4403 South Figueroa. As officers arrived, they encountered the suspect, later identified as Jacinta Johnson, standing on the sidewalk across the street from the location with a machete visible in her waistband. As officers began to issue verbal commands for Johnson, she suddenly armed herself with a machete. One of the officers fired a single 40-millimeter less lethal projectile towards Johnson, striking her in the upper stomach area. Johnson immediately dropped the machete on the sidewalk and was taken into custody without further incident. The fire department responded and treated her. She was transported to California Hospital for her injury to be seen by doctors, and it was determined she had a lacerated liver. Due to these injuries, she was admitted into the hospital, which created a categorical incident that was investigated by Force Investigation Division. And then an approximate 17.5-inch machete with a plastic handle was recovered at the scene and booked as evidence, and no additional officers or citizens were injured during the incident. And then on August 6th, at approximately 12:18 p.m., Olympic patrol officers, they were driving east on the 2600 block of Pico Boulevard. They observed a suspect, later identified as Jose Delgado Pinto, standing in opposing lanes of traffic, pointing a handgun in their direction. As the officers stopped their vehicle on the roadway, Delgado Pinto fired at them, which resulted in an officer-involved shooting. Delgado Pinto ran 1 block east and discarded the handgun near the intersection of Pico and Dewey. Responding patrol units ultimately located Delgado Pinto at the southwest corner of Pico Boulevard and Brendo Street. Delgado Pinto then challenged an officer to a fight, which resulted in the deployment of a taser. Delgado Pinto fell to the ground and was subsequently taken into custody. He was struck by gunfire during the earlier OIS, and then he was transported by rescue ambulance to California Hospital, where he was treated and released from the hospital. Delgado Pinto was booked for attempted murder. The investigation determined that the police vehicle was struck by gunfire. However, fortunately, no officers or citizens were injured during this incident. Delgado Pinto's firearm was identified as a ghost gun, and it was recovered at scene. Then on August 9th, at approximately 6:26 p.m., multiple radio calls were broadcast over Foothill area base frequency of a Department of Water power vehicle, which was later identified to be stolen. This was a televised pursuit. Officers on scene broadcast the initial description of the vehicle, which was described as a white full-size sports utility. Foothill uniform officers located the vehicle and a pursuit ensued. The vehicle was driven by a suspect later identified as Manuel Ramirez. He led officers on a lengthy televised pursuit, eventually exiting the 5 freeway at Colorado Boulevard. Once off the freeway, Ramirez drove into a multi-unit business parking lot with no outlet. He continued up a steep, narrow driveway, ramming through a secure metal gate into a secondary parking lot, in which he conducted a U-turn. Then he accelerated his vehicle towards officers that were following behind him. Ramirez intentionally struck 2 of the police vehicles, injuring officers, and then collided with an uninvolved van which was occupied by a citizen. The vehicle became temporarily disabled, and as officers tactfully approached his position, an officer-involved shooting occurred. Ramirez's vehicle became operable once again and suddenly accelerated towards officers, which resulted in a second OIS, officer-involved shooting. Ramirez drove a short distance and collided with the fence, where the vehicle came to rest, and he was taken into custody after a long standoff with officers. Ramirez was transported by rescue ambulance to Los Angeles General Medical Center, where he was treated for injuries which included being struck by gunfire. Ramirez was released from the hospital and booked for assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer. The 2 officers injured during the collision were treated at scene for the injuries and released, and 1 officer was treated at a local hospital and was also treated and released. Then on August 12th, we had a non-tactical unintentional discharge. At approximately 2:47 p.m., an on-duty police officer assigned to Community Safety Partnership Bureau was in the Hollenbeck Station Community Safety Partnership Bureau office located on the 2nd floor. And while conducting an inspection of his duty weapon, a non-tactical unintentional discharge occurred. 1 round was discharged into the east wall of the office. That round traveled through the office wall and impacted into the east wall of the 2nd floor hallway. No one was injured during this incident, and Force Investigation Division responded to investigate. Then on August 12th, at approximately 8:17 p.m., Olympic Division uniform officers responded to a radio call of a man with a gun inside the 7-Eleven's convenience store located at 3450 West 6th Street. Upon arrival, the suspect, later identified as Taylor Dean Sanders, had left the location. At approximately 9:19 p.m., officers who were canvassing the area observed Sanders on the south sidewalk of Wilshire Boulevard west of Kenmore Avenue, carrying what appeared to be a black assault rifle. As officers issued verbal commands to Sanders, he raised the rifle in the direction of the officers, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Officers broadcast a help call as Sanders fled the location on foot. Responding uniform officers from Rampart and Olympic divisions observed Sanders walking on Vermont Avenue from Wilshire Boulevard. Officers began to follow Sanders on foot from behind the cover of their trailing police vehicles. As Sanders reached mid-block between Vermont and 7th Street, officers deployed both beanbag shotguns and 40-millimeter less lethal launchers towards Saunders. Saunders again raised his rifle in the direction of the officers, which resulted in a second officer-involved shooting. Saunders continued to flee south on Vermont Avenue into a multi-unit shopping center and parking lot located at the northeast corner of 7th Street and Vermont Avenue. Officers again deployed the 40-millimeter less lethal launcher towards Saunders, and as Saunders again pointed his rifle at the direction of officers, this resulted in a third officer-involved shooting. Saunders barricaded himself in an open-air stairwell of the parking lot and refused to submit to commands. Metropolitan Division Special Weapons and Tactics personnel responded to the location, and after a lengthy standoff, Saunders surrendered without incident. Saunders was transported to the California Medical Center for treatment of gunshot wounds to his hip buttocks area and was admitted in stable condition. Saunders was absentee booked for brandishing an imitation firearm at officers. 2 replica firearms were located and recovered. A black airsoft gun in the appearance of a rifle and a black and orange butane lighter in the appearance of a small pistol. They were recovered from scene and booked as evidence, and no additional officers or other citizens were injured during this incident. And then on August 13th at approximately 5:20 a.m., 77th Street Division uniform officers responded to a radio call of a grand theft auto suspect there now at 6319 South Hoover. When officers arrived at the location, they were met by the victim, who directed officers into their driveway and advised that the suspect, later identified as Olban Perdomo, was seated in their parked vehicle. The vehicle windows were heavily tinted. As officers gave verbal commands for Perdomo to exit the vehicle, which were ignored, they approached and opened the driver's door to contact the suspect. Once the door was open, officers observed Perdomo's arm protruding from the back seat while holding a black handgun, prompting the officers to back away and request additional units. Officers ordered Perdomo to exit the vehicle and drop the handgun. Perdomo initially complied by exiting the vehicle but refused to drop the handgun. Officers continued to verbalize with him in both Spanish and English, and after numerous attempts to have him drop the handgun, one officer deployed the 40-millimeter less lethal launcher, which was not effective. Perdomo then pointed the handgun at the officers, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. Perdomo was struck by gunfire, fell to the ground, and was taken into custody. Los Angeles Fire Department personnel responded to the scene and subsequently pronounced Perdomo deceased. A replica-style handgun loaded with metal pellets recovered from the scene was booked as evidence. No officers and citizens were injured as a result of this incident. So these were 7 categorical incidents over the last 3 weeks. So for the same 3-week period, of those 7, we had 5 officer-involved shootings versus 1 of the same time period last year in 2022. So we saw a significant increase during this 3-week period of officer-involved shootings. But year-to-date, we're at 18 officer-involved shootings versus 23 officer-involved shootings for the same time period last year in 2022, which is down by 5 or 21.7% less. I'm going to move on to a couple other significant incidents during the week that I'd like to mention. So we had a recruit class graduation on July 28th. This recruit class had 26 LAPD recruits. 8 were females, or 31%. 3 African Americans, 11.5%, 7.7% AAPI, 73% Hispanic, and 7.7% Caucasian. We also have another recruit class graduating this August 25th. There are 32 recruits in recruit class, 10 which are female, or 31%. We have 12.5% African American, 3% AAPI, 72% Hispanic, and 12.5% Caucasian. I'd also like to comment that we have a new recruit class starting on August 28th, and that class is projected to have 44 recruits, which is that we're seeing a little bit of increase in the numbers, obviously, which is a good thing. In that class, we have 7 females, or 16%. We have 9% African American, 7% AAPI, 66% Hispanic, and 18% Caucasian. We also, on Tuesday, August 1st, 2023, the department celebrated the 40th annual National Night Out. This nationwide event is an opportunity to enhance our police-community partnerships and promote neighborhood camaraderie. This year, the Los Angeles Police Department participated in over 30 events throughout the city, with the coordination from the Mayor's Office of Community Safety, council districts, businesses, community partners, and volunteers. We were able to provide food, giveaways, and entertainment for all those that attended. Chief Moore was able to visit multiple national night out locations, and we had significant representation from at all of our sites with our officers and command staff and community members. And then lastly, unfortunately, on August 8th, we had Police Officer 3 Edmund Babians assigned to Custody Services Division. He was arrested on a felony warrant for burglary and theft of a debit card. Our Internal Affairs Division conducted an internal investigation that originated from a community member's concern about her missing debit card. She last recalled being in possession of that card while inside a department facility and later noticed unauthorized transactions on her bank statement. The community member obtained pictures of the individual making purchases with her debit card at a local home improvement store. She forwarded those pictures to LAPD to identify the person using her card. That person was identified as Officer Babians. Babians was booked at LAPD's Valley Jail section, but consistent with the Los Angeles Superior Court bail policy, Babians was released on his own recognizance. He was relieved of his police powers and was assigned to home pending the outcome of the department's administrative and criminal investigation. Babians is a 16-year veteran of the department and resides in the city of Los Angeles. Now moving on to the crime update. For the week ending August 12th, 2023, compared to 2022, year-to-date, overall violent crime is down 8.1%, property crime is up 0.4%, and overall Part 1 crime is down 1.6%. But compared to 2019 year-to-date, violent crime is up 1%, property crime is up 7.7%, and Part 1 crime is up 6.1%. For the week, there were 6 homicides during the week versus 6 for the same period last year in 2022. And as of August 12th, year-to-date, there have been 189 total homicides compared to 247, which is a decrease of 58 or 23.5% in 23 compared to 2022. Compared to 2019, homicides are up by 27 or 16.7% in 23. There were 15 victims shot for the week versus 27 for the same week in 2022, which is a 44.4% decrease in shooting victims. We are down in every violent crime category year-to-date, including 13.3% in reduction in robberies. We are down in all property crime categories except for theft. Thefts are up 15.4% compared to 2022. However, thefts are down 5.4% compared to 2019. And violent crime arrests are up 2.6%. Part 1 crime arrests are up 4.1%. And overall crime arrests are up 7%. And then lastly, our personnel staffing. So our sworn personnel deployed is at 8,995. This is significant as we fall below the 9,000 mark of our sworn personnel. This is the lowest it's been since, I believe, 2002. Civilian personnel deployed is at 2,632, and our total reserve officers are 442. That ends my comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, the city and surrounding jurisdictions have recently experienced a wave of, for lack of a better term, people swarming into shopping centers and going into department stores and other high-end retail and stealing. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so just a brief update. So on August 12th, at approximately 4 p.m., we had what we're calling a flash mob style theft at the Nordstrom store in Westfield Topanga Shopping Center in Canoga Park. We had more than 30 individuals enter the store all at once and within only minutes grab more than $100,000 worth of merchandise, ransacking shelves and display tables in the process. They were wearing ski masks and fled with high-end handbags, clothing, and other easily resellable items. One suspect, upon entering the store, sprayed what we think is bear spray on the face and body of a security guard. We're working, this investigation is being handled by our Commercial Crimes Division. We're continuing to identify the suspects and anyone with information. We're unsure if the other flash mob style thefts are related, but we're working on any connections that we have there. But anyone with information about this or other similar incidents are asked to call Commercial Crimes, Organized Retail Crime Section, Detective Santander at 818-374-9420. And at non-business hours, you can call 1-877-LAPD 24/7. That's 1-877-527-3247. And this is an ongoing investigation, so those are the details that I would like to share with you this time.
Thank you, Chief. Another question I have for you. You mentioned that the department now stands at 8,995 sworn personnel, which takes us back more than 20 years. We haven't been at that number. I mean, this is a very low number for LAPD. Can you speak to the reason why we've dropped below 9,000 personnel?
Well, I mean, the basic reason is we have a higher attrition level. The past 3 years, we've been over the 600 level mark of attrition each year, when historically we've been around 495 to 500. So that's one reason. Additionally, on the recruitment side, this is not just a local issue. This is a national and even international issue where larger law enforcement agencies cannot hire to the demands that are needed in the law enforcement profession. This is through, I think, the popularity of remote work, immediate gratification of jobs. The current generation of youth may be looking for more, I don't know how to say it, not career-minded, but more focused on telework, remote work, social media, those types of careers. But we are doing everything we can, including strong marketing campaigns, to try and recruit and hold on to the employees that we have. I think a big plus for us is the ratification of the MOU that just happened. I think the incentives, the pay salary now puts us on par with, or even ahead of a lot of the major departments locally. I think we'll see that have an impact, and we'll be able to bring more recruitment into LAPD.
Thank you, Chief. Commissioner Calanche, any questions for Chief Choi?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Chief. Thank you for the report. This summer, we've seen some violence in some of our SNL sites, which is concerning, since these are supposed to be safe spaces for young people. So I'm wondering how the department is working with the mayor's grid office to ensure safety at these sites. And I don't know if the programs are culminating because school started, but usually after summer, they maintain these programs like on Fridays or, yeah. So I'm just wondering what the department's doing to ensure safety around these sites.
I can tell you that one of the shootings that happened prior to the SNL site being, or that evening beginning, so the officers were not present at that site at the time of that shooting. But I can tell you that we're actively working with the grid office from the mayor's office. In fact, there was in South Bureau and Southeast Division particularly, there is a particular concern going on with the gang feud. We've engaged with grid. They've done some significant outreach. And over the past week, that area there has settled down, and I believe that I won't call it a truce, but there's been an unofficial or informal agreement, and there hasn't been any shootings in that area. So our CSPB sites are also out there communicating, developing safety plans with their communities. We have extra patrols done by our senior lead officers in these areas. And really a lot of community engagement and outreach and talking to those people that can make a difference in these communities, and that's really those really our efforts. The days of, again, using metropolitan vision to flood communities, we're not doing that anymore. We're engaging with these communities and working with them to develop safety plans.
No, I'm glad that we're not using Metro for that. But I think there's opportunities to use our reserves, just like we do when there's, areas where there's smash and grabs and things like that. So I think keeping these communities safe are just as important as some of those business corridors. So I just would urge, the department to think about some alternative ways to have more presence. And I know unfortunately these sites stay open pretty late, so, and that's the time that we're getting radio calls for other areas. So just thinking, how can we work to ensure the community that these programs are safe? So that's one of my main concerns, because I know we had another incident this weekend in Hollenbeck Division, right? So yeah, so just, think about different, ways that we can work with the community or with the existing patrol. Yeah, that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kalanche. Commissioner Shields, any questions for Chief Choi?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chief, for the report. And I understand that the 7 categorical uses of force would be presented to the commission at a later date. At what point do you anticipate any video camera footage will be released to the public for these instances?
So typically, we look at a 30 to 45-day time period before the critical incident video is released. We've been able to meet the 30-day time period fairly consistently now, so.
Thank you. And you indicated that there's been a significant increase from this year for the same time period as last year. Are there any factors that you're attributing that increase to?
So I did look at the one last year versus the 5 officer-involved shootings this year, and there has been no real pattern other than the suspects are armed or armed with either replica or imitation firearms for almost all these incidents. And so we are seeing, one had a ghost gun. We're seeing a significant number of individuals that have either firearms or replica firearms on them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shields. Commissioner Suthers, any questions for Chief Choi?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chief. Again, thank you for the report. I'd just like to know if you could share some details of the SWAT deployment on August 12th, the use of the QUGV, which is the quadruped unmanned ground vehicle, to secure a suspect's weapon in that incident, and how that actually evolved and what was the result.
Yes, absolutely. So in that barricaded suspect incident, the SWAT officers observed that the suspect had some firearms nearby. He was obviously unsafe to approach. They tried to use the initial mechanical device or robot, if you will, to recover these firearms away from the suspect, and they were not able to. So this new tool that we had recently acquired, the quadruped unmanned ground vehicle, was deployed. And because of the 4 limbs, if you will, and the nimbleness and flexibility of this tool was able to get to the position, recover one firearm, come back, go back, recover the second firearm, and then officers were able to safely approach this individual and take the person into custody. Had we not had this tool, they would have had to try, use other options, but the tools that we did have at that time weren't working, weren't effective. So I'm very happy to say I believe this was the first deployment of this tool, and it was successful and came to a positive resolution.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Suthers. Commissioner Soboroff.
Chief, thanks for the report. Let's go back to the smash and grab for a second. Whether or not they're linked, they're organized. And my sense is that they are linked. Interesting that they all wear identical masks. So somebody's going out and buying 30 or 40 or 50 identical masks. And got to be a way to do that. That's unusual. So whether it's Amazon or they're going to some store, this idea that it's all just high-end stores and it's just hitting the elite. A lot of mom and pop shops are being same kind of thing. Whether they're family-owned, whether it's jewelry stores, or there was a locally owned store that carried Nike shoes that got hit, I think, yesterday. What's the process for organized reward? I mean, when you got 30 dummies doing this at once, maybe one of them's willing to cash in and turn in some of them. What is the process for these retailers or anyone to get together and create some sort of reward system to try and catch one of these?
Well, I think anyone can offer up a reward. I think the process would be getting.
Chief, is your mic on?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Well,
I'm sorry.
I'll move it a little closer. So whoever feels that that they'd be willing to offer a award can do so. The formalities of doing that would be bringing it to these investigators and running it through the approval process. There'll be some guidelines, obviously, if it leads to the arrest, if depending on what information is provided to identify these individuals. But CCD, Commercial Crimes Division, can, if anybody is interested, can facilitate that and offer a reward. And I think publicizing that is key to the reward, obviously.
Okay. Yeah, and again, I'm sure the investigators are onto this, but when you got 30 people wearing the identical same amount of clothes, somebody went and bought 30 sweatshirts, 30 this, 30 pair of slacks, and maybe there's a way to trace that way. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sobroff. At this time, there being no further questions for Chief Choi, we're going to go to public comment. Madam Secretary, call the first speaker, please.
Thank you. The first speaker is Maria Santiago, and on closed session, item 7A1.
Hello, good morning. I'm speaking on a later agenda item in regards to Giovanni Luna. I'm his sister, and I first wanted to thank y'all for the opportunity to allow me to speak. And I would like to start with a Bible verse. The Lord rescues the godly. He is their fortress in times of trouble. Psalms 37:39. And I share this psalm because this is a psalm that my brother and I read on many occasions. And while there should be a lot of division and people might expect for me to give a lot of hate, I stand in the stance of love and sharing the love of God, because although this was a very unfortunate, hurting circumstance, and my brother was my flesh and my love and to our family, but the fact is that he's no longer with us, but I get to choose every day how I want to remember him, and I get to choose to love even those who hurt me, love the circumstance. And he is a well-respected son, a father, a brother. He was a skilled tattoo artist, a good friend. And again, these circumstances make it very difficult to want to have an ongoing debate of who's right, what's wrong. But I'm here to stand to tell everyone that in my personal belief, I'm going to stand in the love of God, in the will of God, and to remind others that even though there might be division and bureaucracy and political views and religious views, one thing we can choose is to love and to accept and to every day rebuild our lives. And while this is a hurt that will be with me lifelong, I'm not going to play myself a victim, and I'm not going to point fingers. I'm simply going to choose to stand in the love of the Lord. And I'm going to remember that every single time my brother and I had an interaction, I would constantly remind him that his faith was important. And while the circumstance of the incident does, show him at a low point in his life that has so much history to that, I will choose to remember how he was a man of faith. He reminded me himself with his own words to love my enemies, to forgive those, because he forgave a lot of people who did wrongdoing to him. He still loved them. And just to close, I just want to let everyone know that our family, myself, we stand with the legacy that he leaves behind, which is God is good. Thank you so much for that opportunity. Nothing further.
Okay. Our next speaker is Andrew Graebner.
All right, I will do all items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Okay. So starting off with the chief's report. Chief's report should be limited to 3 minutes at every meeting, but no more than 3 minutes. If the chief's report exceeds 3 minutes, you should give that time back to the people. So if the chief takes 15 minutes, we all get 15 minutes to speak. If the chief takes 30 minutes, we all get 30 minutes to speak. Regardless of how long the chief takes, every public speaker should be heard both in person and over Zoom. I noticed that there seems to be a lot of talking about the like 6 or 7 people who were shot by the LAPD in the last 3 weeks. So yeah, the most murderous police department in the country. Um, you know, you constantly talk about, how these events caused the shooting. What caused the shooting was the officer with some kind of violent streak, went and pulled the trigger and shot, and in a lot of cases killed the person. These shootings should all be described like that. It's the officer who is shooting someone, and that should be how it's described. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Let's see. A lot of stuff on this consent agenda today. We have a grant application we have a bunch of grants, a lot of donations from the Police Foundation. Fuck the Police Foundation. The same kind of found thing as what's funding Cop City in Atlanta, just the LA equivalent. Just a bunch of corporate sponsors who are just giving more money, more equipment, more stuff to the LAPD to continue doing the violence. And the business is just, killing more people and, inflicting terror on the community. Um, let's see, we have a bunch of just event parties, like, that are, we have the grant for a bunch of like really weird grants. You have like food, you have like honoring anniversaries. But we shouldn't be celebrating the anniversaries or creating any division. We should be mourning that because more people are getting killed every time a new division is created. Um, yeah, so, and there's the contract for Metro, but the LAPD is regularly in violation of the contract with Metro because the contract with Metro says that the LAPD is not to do fare check inspections, but I constantly see them doing it on trains. That's a violation of the contract. So we're going to be going after telling the Metro Board to hold you accountable for violating your contract. Abolish the police. Fuck Briggs. You know, you are a terrible president, William.
The next speaker is Jonathan Foster.
Hi, Jonathan Foster. I have to apologize to Dr. Albert Hoffman. I called him Albert. I didn't call him Dr. Albert Hoffman. Halito Chimichakma, which is Choctaw language for how are you inside. Hi, Chief Choi. Today I'm observing a moment of silence for the officer who took his life. And Father God, thank you for today. Thank you for your son, Jesus. And when appropriate, thank you for a sense of humor and laughter. And I will get back to the 4A ADL on June 6th. I'll get back to that. 7B on the docket today, fire the dark government. There's so little time to talk. The officer who took his life, when was the officer's last dance with caffeine? How much caffeine did he take? And what was the come down brain chemistry? That's everything. Caffeine is a huge contributor to suicide. As I stated here before, I deal with suicide every second of the day. And I would like to share my victory. Also, nothing is an end all be all, is it, right? Everyone is a little different, except in the right arrangement, what I'm going to speak about works well for most people, really. The officer is dead. Shouldn't we have tried LSD? And see what your perceptions are right now. You're like, that's convoluted. Why would we do that? But post-death, he's dead. It's easy to say this, right? But alive, the answer is no. You see what your brain says? And this is stupid, right? Same as the head-to-toe body armor or the net guns. Your living perceptions are wrong and lacking. The same problem exists on all these issues. People are dying. So why isn't there body armor? Why isn't there net guns? And why isn't, when you need it, you can take some acid? 8 micrograms. Everybody knows probably those little square blotters have 100 micrograms on them, right? You take 3 of them, that would be 300, right? But what Dr. Albert Hoffman would do on one, they said it was 100, what Dr. Albert Hoffman would do is he would take 8 micrograms, just 8. You don't even know you're taking it, right? Give an acid to a police officer. Boy, that does something to your brain, right? But you have to change your mind, people. As the chief said, it's widespread between law enforcement. You have to change your concept. Helping this brother. All this officer needed was 8 micrograms and to talk with me. I'm telling you, I can really help this. And what you also need, though, is head-to-toe body armor and net guns for people with knives. Thank you so much.
Next, we have caller ending 1264. Caller 1264, you're on. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
What items would you like to speak on?
I'd like to speak on the chief's comments and public comment.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Yeah, the chief mentioned about about your assaults being down. I believe that that's mostly because a lot of people aren't reporting these items because they don't feel that anything's going to be done about them. Feel helpless out there. You have too much illegal activity, no matter how small it is. That is conditioning kids to believe that you could do whatever you want and there will be no consequences. In my Foothill division, we just seem to have a lot of rampant things going on, illegal activity, organized racketeering, right in broad daylight. And I don't believe that the police even investigate or mention it to the appropriate departments that deal with that kind of stuff. We have mobile homes that prostitution is being done out of, and the police say there's nothing that they can do. This is around a school, a Catholic school, by the way. And so we're just conditioning kids to believe that criminality is okay. So if you want to keep that up, you're just going to get more of what you're putting out there. So we just really need to start enforcing a lot of these laws, no matter how small. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
The next speaker, Susan Rocha. She's not present. Next is Mega Karen.
All item. Today, I'm here. Last week I was here as a applicant. So today I'm here as a metro passenger. But first of all, I want to talk about the question Commissioner Briggs and Commissioner Soborov asked. I also have a little bit small input. They were talking about the smash, grab, and the shoplifting and all those. There's no way those kind of stuff started recently, because I believe it go back all the way to 2020 summer. And then based on my knowledge, I just follow the news. The sheriff, and then the Beverly Hills chief, and then Santa Monica chief, those, I also heard several different press conferences they were talking about. They were talking about that they are arresting the same people over and over again, and then the same amount of people just released over and over again because the district attorney's office, because there's a zero bail policy. And then they were talking about there's literally nothing too much the police can do. After the police arrest those suspects, those criminals, and everything else is not really up to the police anymore. It's the district attorney's office, and until that part get changed, the police can only arrest them But again, we already know the law, the $950 or below, from the felony right now is misdemeanor. Right now is no bail. So all those people gonna continue to coming back to the street, continue to violate those stores and over again. So it's really not up to the police at this moment. The problem actually growed much bigger. But another problem I was talking about today is I'm here as a metro passenger. So I was because I don't have a car, so I have to rely on the metro system. There's something I observed. I feel if it's possible, LAPD can do something better. It's like when I'm riding on the bus. Normally, at certain bus stop, the LAPD officer, the driver opened the door. The LAPD officer, hey driver, everything good? And the driver say, okay, everything good. And then the driver closed the door and take off. And then the only problem is that I actually heard those driver, and then they were talking, the driver talking with the mentor, the driver talking with the driver supervisor. They were actually saying that those LAPD officers just say hello every day. And then they actually, whenever Metro has 3 driver stabbing this year, I believe there's everybody are aware of that. And at those moments, the LAPD was just never there. I just feel, is that possible for LAPD officer can actually ride the bus, ride the train, instead of just saying hello to the driver and then for that 1 second, there's something can be improved.
Next, we have Steve Rogers.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
I'd like to say first that the prior speaker made some great points, and so thank you for participating. All lives matter. I want to put out and say prayers for all victims on all sides. But look at where we are today. The chief mentioned that we're below 9,000. We haven't been there since 2002. The department leadership, and that includes the police commission that's been present during this time, is failing to provide an environment that people want to join the LAPD. So that is part of the problem. Just look at the splash page on the lapdonline.org. You have what looks like an androgynous Asian officer and a female, and that does not inspire people to want to join. People respect strength. They don't respect identity politics. If you can do the job, no matter what your background, then join the LAPD and do the job. But the job comes first, and the public comes first, not identity politics. And that's the problem I've had with Briggs and some of the police commissioners and some of the leadership in the city, including, of course, Bended Knee Chief Moore. So what you have to do is put the job first and create an environment where people want to join the LAPD. This is free advice. Change the photos, put photos of active police officers actually doing police work. 90% or so of the suspects that the LAPD is dealing with are male. Okay, that's just reality. Let's look at the reality of crime, the demographics of crime. Also, the vax mandate. Many people are not going to join the LAPD if you require a vax mandate for them to join and attend the academy. That's just reality. You had 20% of this department that actually took a stand, and God bless them, and they paid a price, many of them, for it. So community policing, Briggs said that he increased proactive community policing. I don't see it. National Night Out, there were 30 events. Why weren't those events talked about before the actual day? The day is the same every year, and yet year after year, there is not much publicity put out, either on the website. You can use that website to connect neighborhood watch meetings, business watch meetings, CPAD meetings. There are many meetings that take place, but they're only talked about after the meetings take place. It shouldn't be community policing by invitation only. I've said many of these things before, but until you actually change them, you're going to continue to fail. And the city cannot afford an LAPD that's imploding and failing. Talk to the public, form real partnerships, and let's do better. And I support the LAPD, and God bless them all and stay safe. Thank you.
The next speaker, Anthony Garcia.
I was arrested on April 25th of this year, case number 3, C as in Charles, J as in James, 07684. I was brutally assaulted by Officer Wheeler, 35748, and his partner that overseen him brutally assault me because he was a rookie, 37172, and Sergeant DeVol that was not on the scene, 27840, proudly, the proud Central Patrol Division. I was arrested and was held for over 72 hours, and I was told that I was a felon, which that was not the case. It went down to a misdemeanor. How can people that are just regular public people can be housed for 72 hours and not have no say? I'm homeless, and it doesn't make sense where I'm homeless and I ask, tapping the glass, officer, I need assistance. Oh, yeah, you'll be here for a couple of more hours. Here's your breakfast. It doesn't make sense. And my case still exists, and it's going to be ending in September, which I do have to see if I can have it cleared. I filed a police report complaint, and that complaint has not yet been answered by Eternal Affairs. Mr. Michael Moore's beautiful printed, the usual printed form that's mailed to individuals such as myself, homeless. My cell phone was taken into custody as evidence, and yet the form is not completed properly. There's evidence that is not properly filled out. So where is my form? My phone. I went to the DA's office, I went to LAPD, and I went to my public defender. Nobody knows where my phone is at. And my phone, the phone number at that time was 213-505-2897. Since then, I have not able to get a job because I don't qualify for free phones. I'm homeless. I couldn't call to get my medication because I didn't have my phone. I'm not finished yet. I'm going to talk about.
Sir, your time is up.
Hold
Thank
on.
you. Please go to the next speaker. Your time is up, sir. Sir, your time is up. You have 3 minutes.
Next, we have T.
Hello?
Hi, what items would you like to speak on?
All of them, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Okay, y'all had a great disregard for that man that just said that, he was abused by police under arrest. That was just ridiculous. Power and strength to the mother, the sister that got up there, gave power and strength to God and her loved one that was obviously killed by y'all. I really commend her and her, her whole demeanor dealing with y'all, because I couldn't have done what she did. Let's get on to the chief's report. Y'all can't decipher a fake gun or not a real gun from a real gun, or something that looks like a gun that's not. We're still dealing with a huge mental health crisis in this city, and y'all keep responding with violence. We keep saying cops out of traffic stops, out of our hospitals, out of our schools, out of our communities, because you continue to disproportionately kill Black and brown folks with no regard. And it just becomes a statistic that y'all talk about. This is unacceptable, okay? Y'all have all the training and all the money in the world, and you can't see that somebody's not holding an actual weapon. You can't decipher what's an actual weapon or not. And anything is a weapon to y'all, right? And you continue to kill our folks out here, right? With no regard and no accountability. It's unacceptable. Okay. Let's get on to the officer with the false discharge. And Steve Soberoff wants to give police $24,000 in housing subsidies when we have a housing crisis, right? And these are folks that kill in our communities. They can't even clean a gun or hold a gun. How many times on these reports do we have a false discharge or the discharge? The bullet went through walls and walls. That could have killed somebody. Do we want these people living next to us? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And where is more? Like, y'all canceled 2 meetings in a row, and this guy's nowhere to be found. He's not accountable for anything. Let's go on to Briggs. That was a horrible speech. You talk about George Floyd. What happened to the Valentine's that was circulated there? George Floyd's death that y'all mocked. What about all the protesters that y'all violently beat out there? Some of them were my brothers and sisters, right? Like, y'all aren't held accountable for nothing. Let's talk about agenda items that the police association, organized crime unit keeps giving money to y'all when we have a housing crisis and a mental health crisis. Ultimately abolish the police. It's just ridiculous.
The next speaker, Mr. Herman.
Yeah. I'd like to speak on all items and non-agenda public comment, if I may. Is that okay, sir? Thank you. Regarding peace officer standards for training, fuck the police. As far as the department's report for routine hazardous waste, we gotta find a better place to put shit, especially bad shit, to bring in good shit. Yeah, Mr. Sobroff, take my picture. I'm handsome and beautiful and not bald like you. And then on item number F for homelessness, undermining wellness program. There was a gentleman here just speaking about being homeless, and not one goddamn voucher, not one goddamn mayor's help came out to that wellness program. Why is that? And why the fuck are police beating up on homeless people still with no guns, no knives, no threat, other than you fuck with the wrong guy and you took his phone and now he can't work, he can't call his doctor appointments, he can't get mental health appointments, he can't do any of this shit. And the reason why, Batman says. And then we go into the other items on the agenda, like the regular agenda items. The hit and run capital of the world, Los Angeles. Who in the fuck wants to be on a bicycle nowadays, knowing that a judge's son got killed off a Pacific Coast Highway, Mr. Ferguson, and not one goddamn asshole comes out to be a snitch, because snitches get stitches, and you're asking for a reward? You fucking hypocrites, aren't you not? Now into my non-agenda public comment. For the record, in case number CV 12-07261, for the record, I'm going to read this with passion and emotion so you don't be upset. Oh, Brandenburg versus Ohio, how far is the nigger going to? Yeah, this is what we're going to do to the dirty niggers. A dirty nigger. Send the Jews back to Israel. Let's give them back to the dark garden.
Save America.
Sir, that speech in here is not permissible. Your time is up. Your time is up, sir. Your time is up. Thank you very much.
You're in violation of my civil rights, sir. I still have 20 seconds.
I may well be, but your time is up. That speech is impermissible in here because I deem it to be something that is insightful of hate as well as violence. Your time is up. Thank you.
Next, we have Mike C.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, what items would you like to speak on?
Well, kind of all items, I guess.
Okay, 3 minutes.
I want to address first the George Floyd issue we have going on in this country. George Floyd's responsible mostly for his own death. Now, I don't agree with hurting people when you're arresting them in terms of kneeling on their neck and killing them, but I don't know if the officer actually killed him or George Floyd died of his own drug usage and his own life choices. Anyway, that being said, I want to address Brooks' dumb comment, or Briggs, sorry, I get your name wrong, but you're out of here anyway, so it doesn't matter, about the acceptance of LGBTQP people on the police force. I didn't know that was ever a question of what kind of sex you like to become a police officer. That's a little weird. When does that come into play as an officer? Do you walk up and ask people, hey, are you gay? I'll help you out now because I'm a cop and I'm gay. I mean, that's kind of stupid, isn't it? Identity politics, I mean, what is that about? And then I also want to address why is the LAPD involved in identity politics in the first place? What does that have to do with policing? I just don't get it, because you guys don't seem to get it. I know the rank and file officers there are good ones. I know they don't like it, but they can't really speak on it because they'll probably get canceled as officers. But that's another story. And when is the next question is, when is the hate crime of Junipero Serra statue being torn down in downtown Los Angeles going to be addressed? There was some fake investigation, and then it just kind of fizzes off into the ether and never comes up again because, well, the Catholics don't really matter. It wasn't a statue of Simon Wiesenthal or anything, or it wasn't a statue of Malcolm X. So that if those statues had come down, if there was one, that would be a major investigation. But because it was the Catholics, and well, it doesn't really matter, I guess, right? One of those kind of things. So, and finally here, all government officials, especially police officers, you derive your power from God. If you don't believe me, just read the Bible, where power comes from when you have a power and authority position. And the police commission is the same way. Your power is derived from God and not from some government official. He may tell you that it comes from them, but ultimately that a power comes from God. And even the governor has that same misconception about who he is. Although we do live in a one-party state here in California, and that is that's the problem behind all the problems here in California, one-party rule. So, and finally, I'd like to end with Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, pray for all of us because, wow, just listening to what's happening here in LA is just a disaster, a mess here in California.
The next speaker, the Red Chief Hunt.
I'll be speaking on all items. First of all, Briggs, I'm so glad you're out of here, man. You keep on violating the Constitution, bro, and that's not cool, not cool at all. And the city attorney sits up here and lets you do it. Let me read this case number: CV 11207-261 DSF. The case is called "Fuck White Niggers Too." The city of Los Angeles put this on a ticket, so what he's saying, you have to listen to. Let me tell you what Pregerson said in Dow versus the city of Los Angeles. You can't narrowly tailor free speech. I mean, 2 minutes or 3 minutes is not a long time. And me and the city attorney had to talk about that. Whatever he's saying, let him go ahead and say it. Hey, it offends me too. But so what? My KKK outfit offended a lot of people. You couldn't tell me to get out of here because of free speech, because you can't narrowly tailor it. You have to listen to what the law is saying and how it's interpreted. And I don't think you did do that very well. Second law, chief, crime in the South Bureau, people don't return phone calls. People don't do anything like that. It takes them 1 hour to get to a violent crime situation, which is unacceptable. The taco stand get robbed. I had to call them several times, and they did an investigation. 45 minutes to get to my house. Now, that's no big deal. I've been arrested 93 times, and a lot of them times it was just a joke. I mean, you guys was just joking when you guys arrested me. So, I'm offended by a lot of the things that you guys do. But a lot of things that you guys don't do is good management in the last 4 years. Management is terrible when you have the lieutenants trying to run the station, which they can't do, and the people not talking to what's the name to the people. All of you guys, I've never seen all of you guys, but the city attorney come out. Soberall come out here to talk to the people, and he's been here long enough to come out here and talk to the people. I've never seen you guys come out here and shake the people's hand and talk to them. And that's the kind of policing you guys are getting. You guys don't understand what community-based policing is. We're the citizens of Los Angeles. You guys need to talk to us. I mean, not just behind here, but everywhere. And this is what's wrong with the police and the mental health issues, because you guys don't know how to talk. You guys, like you said, you guys are always shooting and doing things like that. This is why I say 3,000 counselors, because a lot of these issues are mental health issues that are not being addressed properly. And you guys know that. Los Angeles Police Department has failed under Michael Moore, the Watts situation, where Karen Bass had to go out and things like that. That's a failure of government.
The next speaker, Jason R.
All right, so I guess I'll start with recruitment. I saw you guys had Shaq at an event recently. Shaq's not going to help you with recruitment. Maybe people don't want to join the LAPD because you, year after year, are the most murderous police department in the nation. Maybe people don't want to join the LAPD because you had someone like Dominic Choi stand in front of news media and smile as he talked about the murder of Valentina Oriana Peralta. I haven't forgotten about that, Dominic. Maybe people don't want to join the LAPD because you all can't tell me the last time you actually sustained a racial bias complaint. How many years has it been? Maybe people don't want to join the LAPD because they've learned about the history of the LAPD, the history of this department. Maybe they don't want to join the LAPD because you have a series of lawsuits right now around sexual harassment from your male senior officers to usually the lowering women officers. Maybe people don't want to join the LAPD because you put Tony McBride, who killed Daniel Hernandez, and then named her dog Danny, and has done all this despicable shit on your recruitment poster. Maybe people don't want to join the LAPD because you guys can't even give a basic information to a citizen asking. I asked for that officer's serial number, and he wouldn't give it to me. In fact, in the past, you propped up another female officer named April, what is her name? Asia Hardy. I actually ran into her at the Metro the last time I was at this meeting. I asked for her serial number, and she refused to give it. And these are the different types of things that happen within your department and the reasons why people don't want to join it. It's very simple. It's very simple. And what you all do is you rubber stamp all this bullshit. You rubber stamp it. You don't really care about the community. You don't. You don't. You're up here to rubber stamp everything that comes through this department. That's what you do. And so that's the reason why people don't want to join the department. In regards to the LA, so as you guys heard, I'm not getting charged by the city attorney, neither is Kevin De Leon. But what was revealed in Kevin De Leon's statement is that the LAPD gave him access to the report. I've never received any type of updates from any of the officers that were supposed to be investigating this case. Not once. In fact, why did it take 8 months for this whole investigation to happen? When did the investigation end? Can anyone speak to that? No. Any type of information around this case, you have to PRA. Why won't you just put that out into the public? It's a very public case. Is it not? Was it not? And clear video that showed him assaulting me. Clear video of him and his fucking goonies fucking attacking me. And yet what happened? Nothing. Nothing. And Briggs, finally to you, you are an enemy to our people. Truly. You're a coon. And I mean that. You are a coon. And despite any of the things that you do in your life, we will remember you as the motherfucker who led the commission and allowed for people to kill our people. People, pigs as I call them, but to you people. Briggs, farewell, goodbye. Sobroff, your time is up. T-Fink, you told me his term ended June 30th. Huh? Look at him. He's on the telephone right now. He's literally on his cell phone.
You're out of time.
Oh, am I?
Mr. Reedy, thank you.
That's why, because you were out of time. See ya. See ya, Reedy.
Mr. Reedy, thank you. Please call the next speaker.
The next speaker, please, is Megan.
No, you were out of time, buddy. Ooh, in front of your kid.
Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck in front of my kids? You guys.
When they grow up, they will.
What? When he grows up, he'll be saying fuck the police too.
Yeah, good. You'll be proud of that, won't you?
Mr. Reedy, let the next speaker speak, please. Mr. Reedy, please.
The next
Thank
speaker,
you.
please, Megan.
Kiss my ass. That's what my representative, the citizen's voice in police affairs just told me to kiss his ass.
Only to you.
Excuse me?
Only to you.
Only to me because you don't fucking like me because you're a fucking racist. You're a racist, Steve. You laugh at
Mr. Reedy, please. Can we have Megan, please?
Very extremely petty on your part. You were talking on the phone during his whole comment and only got off to tell him to get out. I watched you.
No, you're wrong.
You're denying that you were talking on the phone during his comment.
After he was done, after his.
Oh, give me a break. I wanted to speak a little bit about the LAPD response to the city controller's report, which showed that Black folks make up a disproportionate amount of the arrests made. And the response that was given was that, well, that's because Black folks need more policing, which is a common talking point of white supremacists. Policing in this country started as slave patrols in the antebellum South. Whites were expected to supervise the behavior of enslaved Black people. This legacy is so clearly apparent in LAPD policing today. Black neighborhoods are disproportionately patrolled. Prosecutors disproportionately indict Black people. Judges give Black people disproportionately long sentences. And after all of that, you look at the statistics and decide that Black people are just disproportionately inclined to commit crimes. Even what we consider crime and what you consider your business and what you can arrest for is racist in and of itself. You guys have spent so much time today talking about smash and grabs, which is completely fucking ridiculous considering that we're living in the city with the highest rate of wage theft in this entire country. $1.4 billion stolen in wages last year, but that's not something that the police consider their business or something that we can arrest for. I also wanted to address Mr. Choi. You were talking about how you were looking for trends in the incidents where police officers shoot and kill people. And that one of those trends was that the person was carrying a weapon or something that looked like a weapon. And I thought about Jermaine Pettit. In the body-worn video, you can clearly hear the officer telling another officer that Jermaine did not have a weapon. And then that officer rolled up on him and shot him through the window of his car, drive-by style. The trends that I see is that most of the people who are shot and killed are Black and brown. And most of them are having mental health crises, so it might be worth looking at that trend. I yield the rest of my time.
Okay. And the final speaker is Mike Greenspan.
And this will be the last speaker.
Mike Greenspan, and first of all, wanted to thank the two citizens that made reference to Jesus, because in a Christian league, when you catch them cheating, they jerk their dicks and blame the umpire. Yes, let's hear about Jesus now. And he won't get Christmas dinner at Tebow's Timaquana Country Club because he's Jewish. Now, couple things. I'm going to speak on all items in public comment. Now, you guys had one of your homers run for mayor years ago. Let's go back, 2001. Stevie Soberoff. Yeah, you couldn't have a better homer running for mayor anywhere. And of course, good Republicans like Bobby Fiedler and her then husband, the late Harry Coleman, they weren't for him, they were for Jim Hahn. He actually is a Republican who ran without Republican support. If he wanted Republican support, I guess he had to go to David Duke. Well, anyway, you guys ran another one. Yeah, who was it this time? Well, you ran this racist white Republican pig. Chokehold Joe. You know, the LAPD guy from Council District 15. Yeah, beat Bass, beat De Leon, beat Caruso. He was so weak, he couldn't beat his meat, I do declare. And he dropped out. What was I always told as a kid? A winner never quits, or a quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. So what did he do? He quit. And you guys didn't support him. Well, who did you guys support? Why, those racist white Republican pigs had a $5 million slush fund. Isn't that nice? A nice slushy for what they called an independent expenditure committee. And for RIC KKK Caruso, the one who used to be on this police commission, and the only good thing that Tony Viller did right as mayor, he removed him his chair and put a better person that showed up to the meetings, which of course RIC KKK Caruso didn't show up to 40% of the meetings. Yeah, I guess you guys bet on the wrong horse in this election, because you know, and I know, that you racist white Republican pigs didn't want to see a Schwarzenegger in the mayor's office. Plain and simple. And as far as Mr. Herman's remarks about sending the Jews back to Israel, give them free lunch. Have them eat that stinky yeller fish that I used to have to endure in the school cafeteria over a false Catholic doctrine of going to hell for eating meat on Friday. Let them eat Antichrist Catholic food.
And that's the end of public comment. At this time, we're going to go to item 4 on the agenda, the consent agenda items. Do any commissioners want any of the items held aside? Seeing none, I move that we approve items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and L. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. At this time, we're going to go to item 5 on the agenda, the regular agenda items. And we have the department, please come forward for the department's report on the motor vehicle and pedestrian stops audit.
Pay for your dog license, so fucking cheapskate bastard. Dog license, asshole.
Good morning.
Everyone. I'm Sharon Sargent, Commanding Officer of Audit Division. I have here with me Police Performance Auditor Joel Cortez and Commander Billy Brockway from OO. Today I'm going to present to you a couple different audits that were part of our annual audit plan for 2023. The first one is the motor
Megan,
vehicle.
please stop disrupting the meeting. Megan, please stop disrupting the meeting. Thank you.
The first one is the motor vehicle pedestrian stops audit, and this was to look at the compliance with policies and procedures relating to motor vehicles and pedestrian stops. So there are times when a person is detained or searched that an officer completes an automated field data report, an AFDR. And for this audit, the auditors reviewed AFDRs for stops and searches and compared those to the body-worn video and digital in-car video. They were specifically looking to verify if the probable cause and or reasonable suspicion was properly documented. Audit Division evaluated completed AFDRs for the period of January through March of 2023. The report shows that the department performed very well overall, obtaining 95% or higher compliance in all but one of the categories. The one area that received 80% compliance involved the proper documentation for searches. A couple of these searches were recorded on body worn, but not documented on the AFDR. The Office of Operations indicated that these were officer training issues, and OO is in general agreement with the audit's findings. Commander Brockway is here, as well as Joel Cortez, if the board has any questions on this first audit.
Are there any questions from the commissioners on the audit? Commissioner Suthers.
Yes, thank you for the report. Two questions. The first is, we had a data set of 68,385, and then we had a statistically valid random sample of 87. I'd just like to know, and we can do this another time, but how was that statistically valid random sample of 87 determined?
We use the... turn on your mic.
Yes, the audit division usually use the one-tail test that calculates the sample for the population.
Okay, yeah, I know a little bit about statistically valid random samples, so again, if I could see how that was run, I would appreciate it. And we don't have to do it now, but I'm just curious.
Okay, provide that information at a later time.
The second question is, if the recommended roll call training is implemented, what's the projected time frame to have all the essential personnel trained?
So what we usually do in situations like this, we issue the special order, which is Special Order 14 from 2022. That's read at roll calls. The training coordinators also will push that out as reminders to all personnel at each one of the 21 geographic divisions. So it's a combination of the training coordinator hitting roll calls and then roll calls being reinforced by the sergeants and the watch commanders when the FDRs are being brought in and roll calls out in the field. But it takes about a month.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commander. No further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Suthers. Any further questions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Let's go to, I move that we approve the department's report on the motor vehicle and pedestrian stops audit. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Let's go to item 5B on the agenda, the department's audit on arrest, booking, and charges.
Sure. This also was part of the 2023 annual audit plan. In looking at felony arrests made by area patrol officers, this audit tested two main objectives. The first was the consistency of reasonable suspicion and probable cause between the arrest report and the body-worn video. And the second area was supervisory oversight, whether or not the supervisors had signed off on the arrest report and the booking approvals. For this audit, the auditors looked at arrest report packages over a 3-month period. That was from October through December of last year, and it shows that the department obtained 100% compliance for both of these objectives. And again, Commander Brockway is here, as well as Sergeant Silvio Corral from Audit Division, if you have any questions on this report.
Are there any questions from the commissioners?
I have a quick question.
Commissioner Calanche.
So just for clarity, the audit is only reviewing procedure, right? So did they follow procedure, not whether it was whatever the arrest was for? Right. It was just procedure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There being no further questions, I move we approve the department's report. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. At this time, we're going to go to item 6 on the agenda.
Item number 6 on the agenda, election of officers. We shall begin the elections for president and vice president for the Board of Police Commissioners. Nominations for the office of Board of Police Commission President are now in order. Are there any nominations?
At this time, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Earl Suthers to succeed me in the role of President of the Commission. Dr. Suthers brings with him experience in law enforcement, homeland security, and academia. Commissioner Suthers has worked throughout his career to educate officers and civilians alike on best practices in policing and public safety. In the months that he has been with us, he has invested his time in having in-depth conversations with the rank and file, command staff, and representatives from the Police Protective League to learn more about the issues that are most important to them and impact their work. Is there a second?
I second.
Motion is made and seconded. Mr. Reedy, please, you are disrupting the meeting. Mr. Reedy, at this time, I'm going to ask that you leave the meeting.
Children were molested via the program that he founded with the
Please
Santa Monica
escort
Police
Mr. Reedy from the room.
Is that true? Yes or no, Eric? Is it true? You founded the
Please-
Santa Monica PAL program.
Please escort Mr. Reedy from the room.
Sexual molester to prey on 200 children. 200. You give a fuck about children?
Mr. Reedy, you are disrupting the room. I would ask that you leave.
Steroid use. Is that also part of the best practices of the department? Steroid use? Is it? Is steroid use part of the department's policies? Is that what you'll be pushing for as president? Hey, Rick, I'll see you eventually.
We have a motion and a second for the nomination. Are there any other nominations?
At this time, there are no additional motions.
But I'm glad to see somebody taking my place. His voice is not quite as good as mine, but I'm glad he's here.
Okay. Those in favor of closing nominations, say aye. Those opposing, say no.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it by unanimous vote, and the motion to close nominations for the office of president is carried. Those in favor of electing Commissioner Suthers as president, say aye. Those
Aye.
opposed, say no.
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it by a unanimous vote. Congratulations, President Suthers.
Congratulations.
Nominations for the office of vice president are now in order. Are there any nominations?
This time, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Rasha Shields as Vice President of the Commission. Commissioner Shields joined the Commission at the same time as Commissioner Suthers. She brings with her intimate knowledge of the impact that crime has on our institutions. She has worked as a federal prosecutor and a litigator of both civil and criminal cases, an advocate for diversity and inclusiveness, and a leader and mentor in the legal field. During her time with the Commission, she has worked on strengthening our recruitment efforts as the Commission's liaison for the use of force issues and worked extensively with the Department on bias policing. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded.
Okay. There is a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations for vice president? Okay, is there a motion to close the nominations for vice president?
So made.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, those in favor of closing the nominations, say aye. Those opposed, say
Aye.
no.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it by unanimous vote, and the motion to close nominations for the office of vice president is carried. Those in favor of electing Commissioner Shields for the office of vice president, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it by a unanimous vote. Congratulations, Vice President Shields. Mr. President.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to recess into closed session, and we will return. Thank you.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess.
Back on the record. Madam Secretary.
The Board of Police Commissioners has concluded its work in closed session. We are now back in open session. The Executive Director will report out.
Item 6A1, officer involves shooting 046-22. The chief's recommendations were adopted on a unanimous vote. Those recommendations were tactics, administrative disapproval, 1 police officer 3, 1 police officer 1. Drawing and exhibiting in policy, 1 police officer 3, 1 police officer 1. Lethal use of force out of policy, administrative disapproval, 1 police officer 3, rounds 1 through 4. In policy, 1 police officer 3, rounds 5 and 6. one police officer, 1, rounds 1 through 6. Related to item 6A2, tactical unintentional discharge, 047-22, Commission unanimously adopted the recommendations of the Chief of Police, which were tactics, administrative disapproval, 1 Sergeant 1, 1 Police Officer 1, drawing and exhibiting in policy, 1 Police Officer 1, unintentional discharge, administrative disapproval, negligent discharge, 1 Police Officer 1. As to item 6B1, discussed.
I just want to make one correction for the record. These were items 7A and B.
I apologize on the numbering.
No, no problem. Thank you. There being no further business before the Board of Police Commissioners, I move that we adjourn. Is there a second? Second. Motion, everybody in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
And thank you for your excellent